only begotten Son. A long, long time ago, there was a kind and faithful man named Abraham. He loved God with all his heart and trusted him in everything he did. Abraham was married to a gentle woman named Sarah, and they were happy together, but there was one thing missing in their lives. They had no children. This made them both very sad, especially Sarah, who would often feel troubled and worried. Sometimes, she would sit by the window and watch the other mothers play with their children, her eyes filled with tears. "Why don't we have a child like other families?" she would ask Abraham. Abraham would hold her close and say, "God has a plan for us. We must trust him." Even though many, many years passed, Abraham and Sarah never stopped hoping for a miracle. Abraham would go out at night, look up at the twinkling stars, and whisper, "Dear God, please bless us with a child." The stars shone brightly, as if they were tiny promises that God was listening. One day, something truly amazing happened. Abraham was sitting under a large oak tree when he felt the presence of God. God spoke to him in a voice that was deep and full of love. "Abraham," God said, "I have heard your prayers and seen your faith. You and Sarah will have a son, and you will name him Isaac. He will be a blessing to you and to many generations to come." Abraham's heart filled with joy, but he could hardly believe it. He was almost 100 years old, and Sarah was 90. How could they have a baby at their age? When Abraham told Sarah, she laughed out loud. "A baby at my age?" She chuckled, shaking her head. But God's promise was true. After many months, Sarah felt something she had never felt before. Her belly grew round, and she knew a miracle was happening inside her. Soon, she held a beautiful baby boy in her arms, and they named him Isaac, which means laughter, because he brought so much happiness and laughter into their lives. Abraham and Sarah loved Isaac with all their hearts. He was their precious miracle, their only child, and they cherished every moment with him. Abraham would tell Isaac stories about God and the wonderful things he had done. He taught Isaac to look up at the stars and remember that God is always watching and caring for them. Sarah would sing sweet songs to Isaac and make him giggle with her funny faces. Isaac grew strong and happy, running through the fields, playing with the sheep, and learning from his father. But one day, something happened that Abraham could have never imagined. God spoke to him again, calling, "Abraham." "Yes, Lord." Abraham answered, his heart suddenly heavy. "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love so dearly, and go to the land of Moriah. There, I want you to offer him as a sacrifice on one of the mountains I will show you." Abraham's heart felt as if it had broken into 1,000 pieces. How could God ask this of him? Isaac was the son he had waited for all his life. The thought of losing him was more painful than anything Abraham could imagine. But Abraham knew that God had never failed him before. He took a deep breath, wiped his eyes, and said, "I will obey, Lord." The next morning, while the sky was still dark, Abraham woke up Isaac and 2 of his servants. He quietly prepared the donkey, gathered wood for the fire, and took a knife. Isaac, rubbing his sleepy eyes, looked at his father and smiled, unaware of the sadness in Abraham's heart. "Where are we going, Father?" Isaac asked, and Abraham replied, "We are going to worship God, my son." They traveled for 3 long days. Abraham walked in silence, his mind swirling with memories of Isaac's laughter, his first words, and the times they spent together. On the 3rd day, Abraham saw the mountain God had spoken of. He turned to the servants and said, "Stay here with the donkey. Isaac and I will go up the mountain to worship, and we will come back to you." Isaac carried the wood for the sacrifice on his back, while Abraham carried the fire and the knife. As they climbed higher and higher, Isaac noticed something was missing. He looked up at his father and asked, "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham's voice trembled as he replied, "God will provide for himself the lamb, my son." When they reached the top of the mountain, Abraham built an altar and carefully laid the wood on it. His hands shook as he called Isaac, who came willingly, trusting his father completely. Abraham gently tied Isaac's hands and feet and laid him on the altar. Tears rolled down Abraham's face as he raised the knife, his heart breaking with every beat. Just then, a voice from heaven called out, "Abraham! Abraham!" Abraham stopped immediately and said, "Here I am." "Do not lay a hand on the boy," the angel said. "Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your only son from me." Abraham's heart leaped with joy and relief. He quickly untied Isaac and hugged him tightly, holding him close. At that moment, Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. God had provided a sacrifice, just as Abraham had said. With hands now steady and full of gratitude, Abraham and Isaac offered the ram as a sacrifice to God. Abraham named that place, "The Lord will provide," because on that day, God provided a way to save Isaac and showed his kindness and faithfulness. As they walked back down the mountain together, Isaac asked, "Father, was that ram really what God wanted all along?" Abraham nodded and smiled, brushing his son's hair back. "Yes, my son. God wanted to know that we trust Him with everything, even with what we love the most. And He showed us that He always provides." Back home, Sarah waited anxiously, her heart full of hope and worry. When she saw Abraham and Isaac returning together, safe and smiling, she ran to meet them and wrapped her arms around them both. From that day on, Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac knew that God's love was deeper than they could ever imagine, and His promises were true. God blessed Abraham even more, and He kept His promise to make Abraham's family as many as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Isaac grew up with the knowledge that God is faithful and loving, and he carried the story of that day in his heart forever. And so, the story of Abraham and Isaac was told to many generations. It became a reminder that trusting in God can be difficult, but He always sees us, hears us, and provides for us when we trust in Him with all our hearts. The end. Moral lesson 1. Trust in God's plan. The story teaches us that even in the most difficult situations, trusting in God's plan is important. Abraham's unwavering faith shows that trusting God can lead to unexpected blessings and outcomes. 2. Obedience and sacrifice. Abraham's willingness to sacrifice what he loved the most shows the importance of obedience and the sacrifices we may need to make to stay true to our faith or values. 3. God provides. One of the most significant lessons is that God always provides, even when things seem impossible. Just as God provided a ram to take Isaac's place, He finds ways to help and support those who trust in Him. 4. Testing of faith. This story highlights that faith can be tested, and it's during these tests that the strength of one's beliefs is proven. Abraham's test shows that remaining faithful under pressure is rewarding. 5. The value of family and love. The deep love between Abraham and Isaac, as well as Sarah's joy in her son, reminds us of the value of family. It shows the power of love, trust, and unity within a family, even when facing difficult challenges. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing Bible stories. Click the notification bell to get updates on new Bible stories.